All right.
Hey, right on cue. Look at that, Kinsey. You are a techno wizard. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second Monday in March. Let's go pulling. Mike Idle here tonight, representing Beer Money Pulling Team. A bit of a skeleton crew out here this evening. Matt Hart, I think he is auctioning off various pieces to his truck. He's had some brake problems, so I'm hoping he's getting that fixed. Jason Schultz is down in. Where is he, Kinsey? Antigua, Mexico, Tijuana?
Yeah, good. South of Caribbean, somewhere in there.
Somewhere down there. He's working very hard, right?
Of course he is.
And Larry's probably testing fuel and checking water and keeping everyone in line. And we are here tonight with our guests from the Keystone Winter Nationals. Jason, how are you doing tonight, bud?
Doing real good.
That's awesome. So thank you for coming on the show tonight. Pleasure to have you. Are you getting excited for this weekend, or are you going to breathe a sigh of relief once Monday rolls around?
No, it's always this is the best time of the year for us. It's crazy here at our shop. It's a lot of fun putting this together and seeing all your friends that you haven't seen. Some of these people for the whole year, because then they come to Keystone and they're from different parts of the country, just don't get a chance to see. So it's a great time for pullers to connect. It's a great time for guys like you to connect with the pullers and start some cool media stuff for the year for the outdoor pulls, and a good way to grow pulling for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you hit so many things right on the nose there. I mean, shoot, we could pay you for a response like that. That was perfect. So, yeah, talk about one thing that he said, a couple things that he said I want to talk about. But yeah, it's a really nice transition point. We're getting at the tail end of the winter season, and I know a lot of people are really starting to kind of chomp at the bit to get to that outdoor pulling. So definitely you're capitalizing on the calendar time to go out there and do that. You talk a lot about also seeing people that you don't get to see very often. I know that in the Behind the Hook, we interviewed the individual from Behind the Hook last week, and he produced it might have been Behind the Hook, or it might have been one of Jason's productions with Rob Russell, and he talked about how his favorite things was going to the indoor pulls and seeing people that he didn't get a chance to see very often. How far do some of these friends that you're referring to travel from to come hang out with you there in Pennsylvania?
So I don't know what we have coming this year for sure. We've had pullers for as far away as California. And how that started, we went to the West Coast Nationals and pulled out there in 2008. We met a group of friends out there, and they said, hey, we're going to come support your pull, Keystone Nationals. And they came all the way in here. And, you know, stuff like that happens all the time. We have a lot of friends from Canada and the New England states. And a lot of times the New England states don't get represented because you don't hear much about their pulls that are happening. So Keystone is like their backyard for pulling. We get a lot of guys from New York, Vermont. I got a guy coming from Maine. He called me the other day, wanted to make sure his 90-foot hauler was going to fit in our parking lot, right? And hey, 90-foot hauler, I mean, that guy's got something cooking there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you're showing up with a 90-foot hauler, you're saying, hey, man, we'll make room because whatever's inside that thing is something we want to have on our show.
Yeah, we will park you, not a problem. And that's what I told him. So it's fun getting the calls leading up to. I just finished our local club meeting here, which is something super important to tractor pulling. A lot of people kind of forget about is we're here at a club meeting that has been going on since the 70s. And these are grassroots pullers here. And I like to think about Keystone is just like Gordyville or Shipshewana, what Clint does out there. He gives a place, and Keystone gives a place for the grassroots pullers to showcase what they've done on their own, what they've done with a little bit of help, and they can do it right in front of a nice crowd of people, of local fans and fans abroad. Now that we have live streaming, it's pretty much wide open for anyone. It's so yeah, we're looking forward to it, and we're looking forward to all the pullers coming from all the different areas. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun time.
Thanks for dealing with me out here, guys. I got the skeleton crew at home too, and my 5-year-old and 3-year-old are getting excited and want to see what's going on in pulling. So I'm wearing my dad hat, I'm wearing my pulling hat, wearing my host hat, but we're going to get through this together. I have no doubt about that. You talk about grassroots pulling, and I really, really like. I've got your schedule pulled up on my other laptop right here, and some of these classes. There's 2 things I'm really excited about this event. Oh, perfect, man, Kinsey, you're right on it. 2 things I really like about this pull. You're talking about pulling in the Northeast, which is just as big of a deal as anywhere, and it's really going to showcase that. And we'll talk about how people can live stream that in a second. But as I go through your class list here, these are classes that I personally don't spend a lot of time watching. You know, I watch a lot of stuff at the national level, and I do think that these are some really good examples of grassroots or traditional or entry level, whatever you want to call it. I hate using the word entry level, but more down to the foundation of pulling. So if you don't mind, let's kind of walk through some of these classes, and you can kind of tell us about just a quick, overview of what it looks like, what some of the rules might be. But Thursday night, we've got the 11,000 pound hot farm class. Is that going to be pretty close to an out of the field class, or is that going to be closer to something quite a bit hotter than that?
Yeah. So one thing I want to touch on here to give you a little scope on how this works. Originally, the class, when Interstate started, the modified turbo was basically the hot farm class back in the 80s and 90s. So as pulling progresses, and you've seen it on every level, the classes get hotter and hotter and hotter. And I see people on the internet complain about this all the time. Why don't we just have one class instead of having all these classes? And I can answer that for every person that's out there listening. To have one class, and let's just say that if they didn't have a mod turbo class, and let's just say they wanted to run pro stock, and it could even be limited pro stock, you would have so few pullers pulling because not everyone has that budget. Mm-hmm. So you have to look at everything. And so what happens in pulling is a class will get 10 or 12 tractors in it, or trucks, and someone new comes in and wants to pull, and they're going to say, hey, we don't want to pull in that class because, hey, the competition's stiff. There's already 12 pulling, but I have this tractor here and I have 2 buddies that can pull. How about we make a new class? I think it's the best thing ever. On a national level, yeah, okay, let's cut it down to 5 classes or whatever. But back here in Pennsylvania, New York, any other state in this great country, let's pull whatever you want. If you got 10 of them that are close, let's pull them. And that's what Interstate's all about. We have rules, but that 11 hot farm class has grown from 2 tractors. I think we have 10 or 12 that's going to be pulling a Keystone, and that's not all of them. So basically it's a 475 cubic inch box turbo, which we're kind of big on box turbos because that eliminates all the crazy spending. So if you have a box turbo, the turbo started out being $900. It might be $1,200 now. It's a great turbo. And the other thing that they have is a pump. And, the East in here, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland, West Virginia, we've been running A pumps since the 80s. And that's just what started here. Of course, it stays because it's easy. The pumps actually work really good, and it is a limit. By having the A pump, it's a limit. You can only make so much power with it. That keeps the guy from breaking transmission, crankshafts, keeps you out of hardened billet rods. It keeps the cost down so that we can have guys. And what you'll find, these guys are pulling that hot farm class, they'll get bit by the bug. Next thing you know, they're at pro farm. You might see them in pro stock in 5 years. You never know.
Yeah, so it kind of sounds like your thought process here is build it first, develop it first, tractors first, class second. You know, if you get 2, 3, 4, 5 guys and you say, hey, we're all kind of close, we have something that kind of looks like this, the class will kind of be built around that. And then I really like what you talk about there about how it turns into a stepping stone and they can easily go, you know, into other classes, which then just builds the sport in and of itself. So numbers for some of these classes, you guys almost had to, I hate to say turn people away, but you kind of had to cap most of your classes, even though you're talking about, you know, this is 2, 3, 5. Once that bug bites them, what can we expect as far as numbers per class out here in the Keystone Winter Nationals?
So what we were looking at, of course, you sit around and you try to schedule all this, and there's a committee, and we all get together and we talk about, hey, we had too many. Last year we had pools that had 101 vehicles in per session. The problem is at Keystone, our dirt doesn't go back as quick as, let's say, Shipshewana or Gordyville. Mm-hmm. Those dudes out there can roll. We have to do everything they do like 4 times between passes. So we have to run less equipment in order to keep within a 4 or 5 hour show or what have you. That's probably the big difference. But we started out this year and we're like, hey, let's go with 12. And then if we have enough, let's make it 24. And so we've had some classes that have, you'll see that flight 1, flight 2, that have enough equipment. So then we had a waiting list, which if you got on the waiting list, we allowed you to pull. So we took 15 in some classes. And if you were beyond 15, 16 or 17, we split it. We had to cut out a couple classes, mainly because we just had too much equipment, but they were kind of grouped together with another class. I mean, the guys kind of fit. Sometimes the first part I talked about making up classes, sometimes there's a few too many classes, if that makes sense. So we had to cut it back a little bit, but you expect to see 12 in a class. You might see 8. It just depends. We try to have at least 8 in a class to make it a class.
How many classes total will you guys be putting on display out here this weekend?
I know you were going to ask me that, and I don't have that in front of me. Probably 15, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I say ballpark. Yeah, so we're talking, you know, 15 classes at anywhere from 12 to 24, depending on how things scheduled out. And the way that it works is we have different flights, and I imagine we're going to treat this a lot like how Louisville does things. We're going to treat Thursday through Friday, or even Thursday through maybe Saturday afternoon as qualifying, and then we're going to see a finals on Saturday night. Is that correct?
That is correct. And we added this year, a lot of people don't know this, but our garden tractor pool is one of the biggest also around for an indoor pool. And this year we made it even bigger. We moved the garden tractors Thursday during the day and Friday during the day to the large arena, the New Holland Arena. They're going to run 3 tracks in there, and he's expecting to have 400 hooks a day just on the garden tractor side. And by doing that, that loosened up our track in the equine arena to have the mini madness that we're going to have on Friday starting at noon. And we're basically going to have a mini shootout. And minis, we have a lot here, a lot of naturally aspirated minis in the area. If you can, you'll get your belly full of minis because they're going to be pretty near 50 of them pulling on Friday. We're going to take 3 from each class, bring them back for a finals on Friday night to see who the real champion is.
But multiple different mini classes, right? Do we have like a 1,900 pound and a 2,000 pound and a small block and a big block? And I'm going to have to lean on you heavily here, because for as much as I like to pretend that I know about truck and tractor pulling from this area and pulling in these classes is not something I'm well versed on. So I might prop you up and just kind of let you do the thing for the people out here. So tell us about, if I did look at schedule right, 2 different mini rod classes, right? 2 different mini rod divisions or classes, so to speak.
So what you're looking at, small block is a very popular class. I would say small blocks for the most part is you'll see a lot of different tractors in there, guys that build them themselves, guys that bought frames from professional pullers, I'll call them, NTPA, PPL stuff. Mm-hmm. You'll see some of that, but most of the time it's the small block guys are just good old boys that want to go pulling. The big block guys definitely get a little more serious. More horsepower. They have a cubic inch limit, I think, of 510. And some of them guys are making some pretty good power. They're kind of fun to watch. And the small block guys, nothing to sneeze at either. The top ones in the class, I mean, they're very serious about pulling. Just like if you had an unlimited modified, it's the same. The thought process.
Yeah, no,
is
the
the same.
competition and the investment, I don't think you could ever second guess on any puller out there. And I know I've always been that way. I said, man, if I could just get my hands on a Pro Street gas truck or just find an old, 4,000 pound WD-45 or something I could turn the fuel up on, I'd pretend I was Joe Ader out there. I mean,
Yep.
It would be just as important to me. On those mini rods, do some of them run smaller tires? I've heard some people talk about a smaller tire setup on those minis.
So our club here, we run the 18-16-1 or whatever it is, or the 16-18-1, whatever the normal mini tire is. But south of here, they run a smaller tire in their club. But I tell you, you can't count those guys out. Even with the small tires, they do really well.
Nice. We got a question from Rachel Damian. Is the Red Apple pulling team going to be there?
You'd have to jump on the website and check. I apologize. I don't know all the guys, and I don't get on there to see who's all coming. I'm kind of the back door of this thing, not to know everyone that's there. If you jump on the website, it'll pull it right up there.
Jason, what is your specific role in this? And I did a poor job kind of hosting and leading you in here, but kind of tell the crowd, we do need to talk about, and guys, to make sure that everyone knows and goes right in, we're talking about Keystone Winter Nationals, and be sure to come in with the comments, just like Kenzie is reading down there. Keystone Winter Nationals in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, this Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're hanging out here tonight with our guests. Tell us what your role is and how they put you to work out. Are you the big dog who sits up top and drinks a cocktail while people work, or are you down there getting your knuckles dirty? Tell us your role in this.
Yeah, that would be fun. The big dog, right? No, I would say that. So we have a committee of guys and friends that we've been friends, and we pulled competitors against each other for years, for 30 years. And when this thing started, Tom Street actually went to the farm show complex and was there for a different event and said, "Hey, this place would be awesome to pull in." So he got a group of friends together and included us. And I'm basically the face in the committee to represent our team here, Forster Pulling Team and Forster Farm Equipment. So our whole crew here does things the same way with the other committee members. Their family and friends help, and we all come together to do this. The main thing I'm responsible for is I'm like the fire putter outer. And when we have problems in the past, before we had numbered seating, like reserve seating, we had people that would put blankets across, and people would get fighting about whose seats they were from session to session. That's stuff that JR and I always had to take care of. But my main thing is I work with the track. So take care of scraping, keeping it rolled, keeping the guys going on that. If we have a problem somewhere, I'm usually the one that, goes and helps with that. I'll grab one of the committee members. We all have very specific roles, but we're all very wide open to do anything. And it's a lot of fun working with these guys. It's awesome. That's why everyone's looking forward to it. And on Monday, everyone will be disappointed, not relieved.
Yeah, that's man, I love that statement right there. When Monday rolls around, you don't say, "Oh, poof, we made it." You say, "Damn, it's done," and that's kind of a bummer. In your partner, Kenzie, help me with her name. I think her name was Jessica. Came on last week and spoke with us as well. She had that exact same passion. You guys have a lot of passion and a lot of pride for this event, and I think that reflects when you start having something that becomes. I don't know these classes super well, but I do know Keystone Winter Nationals. I know when people say that, I say, "Oh yeah, that's one that I've seen highlights of. That's one that we've heard of. That's a destination pull." And you've got numbers that reflect the desire to be there. That's a reflection of a pull that is obviously a passion project and that's doing well. So you say you put your hands on the track and work on the track quite a bit. I was doing some online work earlier today, and we were talking about how far pullers can pull, and do we like 300, do we like 350, do we like 400 or whatever. And everyone had a big opinion. And one thing that I felt gets overlooked so much in pulling, people talk about the horsepower's changed, the race sleds have changed. The tracks that we're dealing with today are so much better. than the average run-of-the-mill track was 40 years ago. Brag on yourself a little bit and tell us about the track that you guys have out there at Keystone. I'm assuming that when you have an event this large, this is something you guys take a lot of pride putting together, and I assume you build a really solid track out there.
Yeah. So the dirt that we have to use is the dirt that's in the facility. And, some of the old pullers that always say, if you can grow 100 bushel corn on the dirt, it'll make for a good pulling track, which this dirt here, you'd never know, but it is kind of like a topsoil mixed with sand. So the main objective of this arena is for cattle, horses to show off their animals. So it's that kind of dirt. So when you put water to it, it can very quickly turn to mud. But if you get the right amount of water into it, and I have to bring up the late Robert Martin had supported us since the beginning with his Superstock tractors. And I'll never forget one of the first years we were there, and he was on top of his game as he always was. And he brought his tractor down through there and it ran out of power. And the first thing I said, Robert, were you trying a big gear or what went on there? He said, no, Jason, he said, I tell you, he said, I had her in the gear I need to be in. He said, it just took that much power. So it can be that good. Or we run into a situation where we run, let's say, the light pro tractors, or maybe even the 6,200 pound 4-wheel drive trucks, and they leave the hole so hard that we have a heck of a time getting that thing patched back up to make it consistent all the way through. So there is a point when the first year we pulled multi-engine modifieds, and wow, that was nice. Those guys destroyed our track. We couldn't handle them, so we couldn't have them anymore. But the dirt is actually good for the most part, but on the super high horsepower stuff, the track crew works very, very hard to get it put back to try to make it as even for everyone as possible. So it's definitely challenging.
Yeah. He muted his mic.
Sorry.
There you go. Now you're back.
It's very challenging because you have to get the right amount of moisture on it.
Right. So it sounds like it's one of those where people at first thought, this track might potentially fall apart a little bit. So we'll be able to go ahead and grab the speed out of the hole and just run through it at the end. And we're surprised when they powered out. But it also sounds like it's a track that's built completely perfect for the equipment that you're putting on it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned mods, I notice here, and we're still just kind of perusing through Thursday night. Haven't made it Friday, Saturday yet. 7,800 pound modified. Now, when I hear the word 7,800 pound modified, I'm going out to like NTPA, PPL, Outlaw, where I would expect to see 2 to 3 engine blown Hemis on, an Engler chassis. Is that exactly what we're looking at here? Or are you guys running something a little different when we say 7,800 pound mods?
No, we're running a version of that, but less engines. So you can run 2 naturally aspirated.
Okay.
Up to 1,100 cubic inch. Or you can run 1 single blown, and I think it's 540 cubic inch. And those are the comparison, and they run really well together. I mean, it's tit for tat on who could win that.
This is so this gives me something I can latch onto a little bit. So for any of my Outlaw fans out there, this is going to be very comparable to what we call the light limited modified class. You can run 2 naturally aspirated big blocks, or I think it's 2 smaller. I'd have to look at the cubic inch with turbos on them, or you can run 1 blown Hemi on that. People want diversity. I read this a lot in some of the comments that we get, and one of the biggest complaints is, we see the 4-engine Hemis constantly. We want to get diversity out there. So that's going to be a nice class. It's going to give people a little bit different. So the NA motors will run side by side with the single blown motor then, and give them a run for their money. Do the NAs ever win that class, or do the Hemis kind of win it predominantly?
No, the twin engine mods are pretty tough.
Are they really? So
they're
this
pretty tough. Yeah, they really got them dialed in, and like I said, it's good. I mean, it's a good class to watch. It could go either way, and sometimes it depends on the track. a lot of times them twin engines have a lot of torque, and they do very well at Keystone because a lot of guys find themselves with too much tire and not enough motor at Keystone. They're out of power, and they don't even realize it. It don't look like it's going to take the power, but it takes the power.
So yeah, that's twice you've brought that up now. So I'm thinking if I'm a driver out here who hasn't maybe pulled at Keystone before, if I'm thinking of coming and making my first pass here, which I'm sure with the stacked lineup you have, there's ones out there. It sounds like, not unlike other indoor pulling venues, drop a gear, boys. Maybe take it out of the proud gear and put it down into the old working gear. The track sounds like it holds together very solidly. That mod class sounds interesting. I like diversity. I like stuff like that. 10,000 pound pro farm, is that going to come in above the hot farms? You were talking earlier on like where people stack, kind of where they jump from one to the other. Do the pros come before the hots, or the hots come before the pros? If I'm wanting to start with one, where do I start?
You would start at the hot farm, and which was probably previously the pro farm 30 years ago. So now the pro farm is a 540 cubic inch. Once again, box turbo, 3.2 inlet, a pump, and an intercooler. Those guys pretty much are the stepping stone class to go into the mod turbo, would be the next class. But the pro farm class has went through a lot of ups and downs on rules, and the guys finally decided to go with a box turbo just because the turbo prices are they're really expensive. And they decided to go with a box turbo, and it's grown for the last few years again. It was one of the original classes, started back in the 90s. And we have a lot of new tractors. We have a couple big block Deers that are new to the class that will be there this year. We got a lot of younger guys that are pulling that have never pulled before. It's going to be a fun class to watch, and a lot of nice looking equipment. I mean, a lot of pride there.
Are these on 24.5s on the back, or are they running skinnies?
24.5 top cut only.
Say that last bit again.
Top cut, no V-cut tires.
So this class is sounding a lot to me, Kenzie, and dipping into stuff that we see from time to time, and you see a lot more of this than I do as well. This is going to be comparable-ish to a light pro class. Are they component rear ends, or no? Are they probably ag rear ends? I'd assume we're running all ag rear ends at this point still.
These are all the pro farm class is all ag, and with the top cut tires, they weigh 10,000 pounds. So you don't have to strip the thing like crazy to get into the weight.
True.
Yeah, it's just a good solid class to get into. I would compare it more to it would be a good stepping stone into the super farm class also.
Sure. Did you say a 3-inch turbo? Is that what they're running on that?
Yeah, 3.2.
So that's going to be, you're right. I say a super farm is probably a better comparison. That light pro is going to come in at 8,500 pounds. So that 10,000 pounds is going to be comparable to that. So then keeping up with a stacked Thursday night class, we get to probably one of my personal favorites, and one I can maybe talk about and actually know a little about. 6,200 pound modified 4-wheel drive trucks. We're talking mountain motors. We're talking naturally aspirated. We're talking bar cut tires. Am I spot on with that, or is there anything different out here you guys are doing?
No, this is spot on. And the 4-wheel drive class has always been a huge class here in the East, especially in Virginia, West Virginia. And there's some really big name pullers that come to Bowling Green all the time that pull. We have a lot of guys here in PA, the same thing. They go all over the Midwest and pull, and have for years. These guys mean business. All their stuff is spot on every time they run. It is really hard to set the sled for these guys.
Yeah.
Because if you get one in the sand, you could have 10 in the sand, So you almost have to reset the sled to pull them back a little bit. And that guy might have had the run of his life, and, everyone's just off the sand pile. And it's crazy how close it is.
I would hate, of every job there would ever be in pulling, I would hate to have to be the event manager or the sled operator when you get a class like that. You see a guy goes out there and he sniffs, he puts the bumper in the sand, and your gut tells you need to reset. Well, then that's almost a slap in the face to that guy, because he's thinking, I just did everything right, and you're going to tell me that my truck's not supposed to go that far. So that's always a heck of a tough call. In Virginia, boy, you're right. There was a time in history when Virginia was the hotbed of 4-wheel drive truck pulling. I mean, people just knew that the trucks came out of the South, and that if you went over there to the East a little bit too, Tappahannock, Virginia I don't remember who's from there, but man, that town rings a bell. And there was like a whole slew of them back in the day that came from over there. That I love 4-wheel drive trucks. Anyone who's ever watched the show knows that I'm all about them. Light limited turbo, 7,700 light limited turbo.
Yeah.
Tell us about it. I'm not even going to try to guess.
So that has a cubic inch limit of 475.
Okay.
And the turbo limit on previous to this year was 3-inch inlet map ring, 4 out with an intercooler P pump. They just voted this winter. We change our rules come up every 3 years. So the class voted this year to run a 3.4 smoothbore turbo. So we're going to have a mix of the new turbo versus the old turbo Keystone. Now, when it comes to the outdoor pools, they'll have to have the 3.4 smoothbore on. Very good class. Competition is very stiff. It's fun to watch.
And is this, I kind of always split my tractor classes basically into the pro stock family and the super stock family. Basically, you got your single turbo diesel 24.5 guys, and then you have kind of anything else on the 30.5s. This is still in the pro stock camp, correct?
Yes, that's
okay.
correct.
Excellent. And then, and I don't know if this is the order, I'm just sitting here on the schedule of classes. We've got 10,000 pound invitation only hot stock classes finishing out Saturday or Thursday night. Is that what it sounds like? Is that going to be closer to an out of the field class?
No, these guys are actually like a pro farm tractor.
Okay.
And something that you'd recognize out there is the 510 NTPA class, the 510 3x4. So we have 4 tractors that are 510 with the skinny tires on.
Okay, sure.
We'll have 4 tractors that have a 540 cubic inch limit with a 3.2 inlet P pump. And then we'll have 4 tractors with the 540 A pump 3-inch turbo limit mixed together. And the reason for this is these are 3 organizations that are circled around Keystone that pull independently of Interstate that wanted to be included, and we wanted to bring them all together as a mixed class. And we made it invitational because there is so many tractors that, we were trying to cut numbers back that we could only handle 12 of them for this year.
Right, for sure. So Thursday, you guys go to or Friday, you guys go to a noon session. We go Thursday at 5:30 at night. Then we're going over to noon on Friday, 5:30 on Friday, noon on Saturday. Have we always ran 2 sessions, both on Friday and Saturday, or is that new for this year?
The Friday session is absolutely new. Since the Garden Tractors moved to the New Holland Arena, now we can run the Mini Madness pool on Friday, starting at noon, and we're looking forward to that. It'll be 50 minutes to watch pull it. I mean, it should be a good show to watch. And if you buy the whole weekend live stream, we're giving you Friday free.
Friday is for free. Where can folks go if they want to purchase that live stream? Seems like a perfect time to go ahead and start talking about that. We're running down the schedule. Again, guys, if you're just joining us, Mike Idle here running Skeleton Solo Crew at Beer Money Pulling Team. Jason Forrester telling us literally like reciting the rule book he hasn't looked down once to check a rule book or check his notes. It's impressive. So we're talking now about live stream. Where do we need to go to get that live stream information at, Jason?
You can go right to our website. We come up with our own live stream this year. We did use Watch Pulling TV in the past, which did a great job, but we grew enough that we thought we'd start our own. So if you go to the Keystone Nationals website, you can get right on there and pick which live stream you want. Our live stream is going to be a little bit different than some. We're going to have our own announcers on the live stream, separate from the live announcers. And hopefully the idea with that is to keep things moving because there is some time between tractor to tractor, just to keep everyone interested in watching the show. And the guys that we have announcing are very knowledgeable in tractor pulling and been around a long time. So we're looking forward to listening to what those guys have to say. And if you follow along on your phone, we'll have on our website there, you can get the pamphlet there, and the distances are going to go straight in there live. So you'll be able to see the distances right away to follow along also. So a couple cool things coming there with the new website and the live stream. Yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
Let's talk pricing on that live stream. I saw somewhere you can get this whole package for something I felt was incredibly reasonable. We've got, what is it? Thursday, Friday, Saturday. What, 5 sessions of pulling here. What's a person going to pay to get that every single hook for the entire weekend?
$90. And
what is it per session if they want to stream it?
So basically, if you're streaming it, you're paying ticket price. Would be 20, 25, 25. Would get you into the normal ticket price. I guess they're 30 now. We had to up the price. It's 30, 30, 25, 25. So we're giving you a little bit of a deal. And one thing we should put to bed here, I always hear a lot of talk is, why do you charge for your live stream? I can answer that for you. Live stream costs quite a bit of money, and beer money. You guys do it. You know what it costs. And I hear our European friends always commenting, you guys need to give the live stream free. That's how you grow pulling. And I'm not saying that that's not a good way to grow pulling and get your sponsors and such. The problem is, in an event like we have, if we didn't charge for the live stream, we couldn't put it up to get a chance to get sponsors to have live stream, if that makes sense. You're going to wrap up $10,000 there minimum to get it happening, and someone has to pay for that. So that's why it has to be charged for at this time. As we keep growing, pulling, and get more and more fans, maybe we can do it for free. But as of right now, we have to charge something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's all money back in the pockets one way or another. It's going to filter to the puller's pockets. And in a motorsport that is so different than others, where, I was watching a little bit of the NASCAR race in Phoenix yesterday, and those guys are now running cars. They might campaign 3, 4, 5 different sponsors in a year, whereas, even so much as 20 years ago, you could run the whole season on one sponsor. So, you're talking about something like that where they're looking multiple cars sponsored by multiple backing organizations. Pulling is not predominantly, by and large, a sponsor-heavy place for the individual driver. So in any way that I can, I would feel guilty as a fan watching a live stream that I didn't pay for. Not saying you folks out there watching shouldn't have your own personal opinions on this, but if I pay for an event to watch a live stream, I know that one way or another, that's benefiting the event, which benefits the pullers. It gets back to them. It gets back to the promoters. And to me, that's how pulling grows. And the live streams, boy, they've come a long ways, regardless of who you're working with in the past 3 to 4 to 5 years. This is not a shaky handheld camera or a cell phone that's being posted up on YouTube by someone at the starting line. You are getting a full production of what is happening, with exclusive, like you said, announcers with you guys, live distances. The live stream, I've always felt in almost any pulling, it's worth every penny. So $90 gets you the whole thing. If not, you're paying ticket face value right there. It all goes back. It all goes back to the sport that we love. So that's absolutely excellent. So on that Friday, the Mini Madness comes free with the whole package. If you get that, you get the Mini Madness for free. And it is a slew. If you look down here, and Kenji, if you want to throw that schedule back up there on or up on the screen, people can see that. It's 1900 small block flight 1, big block flight 1, small block flight 2, big block flight 2, small block flight 3. So this is going to be a slugfest. Now, don't you guys just think, not only is that going to be excellent pulling, is this going to turn into, these guys are really kind of hitting it harder than ever, because this is going to turn into an event where it's all eyes on them, and there's going to be some elbows rubbing, and there's going to be some grudge match pulling here, I would imagine, as well. These guys are going to want to do it for the pride as much as the qualification and the prize money, I bet you, having that spotlight on Friday on noon.
For sure. And one thing I got to mention here about the mini rods, so we had 12 entries that were taken in the small block class, okay? When we opened up the sign up on the computer, the class was full in 4 minutes.
Yeah. So how many total tried to apply?
So then we had 16 on the waiting list. 16 on the waiting list after we had 12 that we were going to take. 16 of them were on the waiting list. And that's when we decided, hey, these guys are great supporters of Keystone and have been since the beginning. And we want to include them. We want to make something special for them. So we want all them guys to pull.
How many will qualify out of each class out of each mini class from each flight?
3.
How many will be total in the finals? I haven't looked over at all the total flights you run.
So there will be 9 in the small block, 6 in the big block.
Okay, so the only pre-qualifiers for the minis is Friday afternoon.
That's correct.
So if you guys out there watching out there on YouTube or Facebook, if you are big fans of small block or big block naturally aspirated mini rods, Friday's heaven for you. I mean, this is going to be where it's going to be at for sure. So then we clear the venue, come back Friday night, 9,300 pound super farm. Hey, Kinsey, I know what those are.
Yeah.
Do you have a big talk to me about the super farm competitors you have over there in the east or the northeast? Is it a big scene out there with your super farms?
Yes, we have a lot of guys from New York and in the northeast, and we have a few guys here in PA that running super farm. There's a mixed class here that they could run those against some mod turbos or even light pros. So we have guys come from the Carolinas sometimes also. Unfortunately, we had 2 that had to scratch this year because they messed their engines up at Louisville. They pulled there, so we're going to be down a little bit on the super farm. A couple tractors. The super farm class, of course, everyone knows is the 600 and couple cubic inch or 640, I believe, 3x3. These guys in here allowed to run intercoolers. They put on a really good show. And they're the tractors that when they let the clutch out, they can carry the front end from start to finish. I mean, they're definitely fun to watch.
Super farms are one of my absolute favorite out there. And there's a lot of people who, I ran into this when I was looking at comments online today too, that claim we have too many single charger classes out there. And I said, you really got to dive in. And I'm glad you're taking the time to explain to me and our whole audience out here the differences between each of these classes, because so many people want to group them all in and say, oh, another single charger or whatever. But when you understand the differences, it helps you to understand the difference in the way that they're going to drive. Might have lost him. I'm going to keep going like he's still on there. But you're really going to pay attention to the way that these people drive out here and how that affects the way that the show is conducted. The super farms, what I like about them is it's both a speed and a torque class. For all of you guys out there still watching and listening to me ramble, super farms pick up the front end early, and they are out like a bullet, but they almost like to lay that front end down about the 200-foot mark, and then the track grabs them at 280. And for all of you out there, and I saw this online all day today, people said, stop with the race sleds, stop with the 380-foot passes. We want pulling to be pulling. Watch a super farm between the 280 and the 315-foot mark. That's where we're going to find out how much you've got left in the seat of your pants, because that's where pulling definitely comes back to your grassroots, as Jason was talking about. Torque is going to win. In a world of speed, the super farm, if you've got torque on the top end, that's where things happen out there. Hey, folks, now would be a great time. Go ahead and chime in with some of your comments. I told Kinsey, I said, hey, I think I'm running solo tonight. We only have so much lined up. And she kind of said something about, oh, cool. And early night, I said, no. Have you not seen how I will talk pulling for an hour by myself if there's people out there. If you have comments about the Keystone Nationals, is Jason, I'm sure we can get him back on here. I don't know if he's backstage or if he's trying to reach out to you.
I don't know what he's doing.
As soon as we see him, we'll try to get him back on here.
Mm-hmm.
Super knowledgeable guy. Great that he's taken that time to explain all of those classes to us. And I did see this online a lot today, guys. People talking about the single chargers. Are there too many single charger classes out there? If you're standing out at a local county fair, getting a corn dog behind the bleachers, and your ear's not tuned in and you listen to the single chargers go by, can you immediately tell the difference between a light limited pro and a super farm going down the track just by sound? Maybe not. Do they kind of look similar? Sometimes. But if you flip through the rule books and you talk to the guys pulling them and you look at why they're doing what they're doing and you sink your teeth into it, there's a great reason that each of those single class or single charger classes exist. And a cubic inch limit is a big one for me, and the turbo size as well. And, you know, it allows pullers a place to pull, and it allows them different, you know, basically budgeting options. But they're all going to put on a reliable show. One thing you can guarantee about these single charger diesel guys, especially the smaller cubic inch ones, breakage doesn't tend to happen as much with them as maybe it would like an unlimited Superstock or a light Superstock. So from someone who just enjoys watching pulling, or from a promoter standpoint, this is something that people really love to line up. And to me, you know, we're talking about, we want to see the pulls come in at 280 to 320. You know, this can be a torque class when things are set up right. Chris Baker out there says single charger classes are furniture, I think he means future, of pulling. Light Pro and Hot Farms are going to be biggest number of classes, in my opinion. You know what? I think for someone out there who's looking to build, there are people out there, Chris, I think that's an excellent comment. I think there are people out there who can say, I want to build a 10,000 pound Pro Stock with a 6.5 inch turbocharger. But the people who can afford to do that are few and far between. And I think there is a lot more third generation pullers or first generation pullers from what I call the third generation of pulling. We're kind of the grandsons of our original pulling grandfathers out there. And those of us wanting to build pulling vehicles, what an excellent place to start, in the super fields, in the hot farms. There he is.
Hey, I'm back.
Welcome back, Mr. Jason Forrester. We were rambling, we were filling, but the show is back on the rails now. So we were discussing Super Farms out east going into your Friday night show.
Yeah, Super Farms, like I said, great class. Those are the guys that can hang the front ends from start to finish. Very, very competitive. Like, it's always within a couple feet. You never know who's going to win. And it's probably by far the best red, green show to date. I mean, as far as red and green, you can find the best competition right there, and you can really get the crowd going on, you know, who's it going to be, because you don't know.
In the Big Pro, you know, it's kind of no secret that in the Big Pro, the 6.5 inch turbo, 10,000 pound, you know, monsters out there. Everybody's got a 680 cubic inch big block John Deere under the hood. You know, there's a few small block John Deeres, very few red motors out there. There's a lot of red sheet metal, but everyone kind of knows at this point in the Big Pro class, everybody's got a big block John Deere under the hood. Super Farms, I imagine, allows itself for some more diversity, depending on how the driver and how the crew chief wants to go about setting those tractors up. And so when you say it's a good mixture of green and red, it really is. I'm convinced that every 1066 that was ever built off the factory has been converted into a pulling tractor. There's no originals left. They're like every single one of them. And half of them out there are in the Super Farms alone. Aaron Crowell says, I'm looking forward to working with Jason this weekend. Jason, do you know Mr. Aaron out here?
Yep. Aaron is going to be in and give us a hand at Keystone this year for the first time. So, yeah, we're looking forward to that. One thing I want to, you'd said something there earlier for my equipment here, give up. You said that people say that there's too many single turbo classes. And in a way, I could say that they're right just because they're not educated.
Sure.
What I mean by that is, and I'm not taking anything away from anyone, I think we do a terrible job on tractor pulling as pullers and as people promoting pulling to really let people know what we're talking about. A 640 cubic inch in a Super Farm tractor. If you would look at an engine that normally came International 466, John Deere 466, or even a New Holland 456, if you can imagine building an engine that has 640 cubic inch, how close those rods are to the camshaft, how big those pistons are, how thin those sleeves are, it's an artwork. These guys put these engines together. It is truly an artwork for these things to actually stay together. And the other thing about pulling that we fail on as pullers is there's a lot of people that's afraid to take off their hoods to show people their work. They're afraid to show the fan, hey, this is my pulling tractor. This is how it works. That is how you get people interested. Once they know that, hey, this is a single turbo, but it's only this big, and we use an intercooler to pump the air in to make 1,500 horsepower. It starts to get a little bit more interesting. And oh, by the way, I don't need a special transmission. I can still run my stock 2-over international transmission in a super farm if I wanted to. So there's a lot of things that go into those tractors that people really don't know. They're not the same.
And Jason, I feel like we've been very blessed to have you on as a guest tonight, because you've done an excellent job being very well versed in knowing the inner workings of your rule book of your local organizations, and being willing to take the time to discuss with us and run through these classes. And as you can see the differences, and Kinsey and I, we were talking about this a little bit kind of while you rebooted things out there. The way to the casual fan, we'll say that they can, if you're standing behind the bleachers and you hear a super farm go down, or a light limited pro or a hot farm, they're going to sound similar. So it's quick to write them off and say, oh, here goes another one. But until you really look into what goes into building that class and regulating that class and the mechanics that make it happen, once you see that and understand that better, that's a big eye-opening experience as well, and especially the cubic inch. And I like going the other way with it. I got very accustomed to seeing everything's got a 640 in it, and of course you've got the big pros with the 680s and the light pros with the 540s. But then I stumbled across some classes that are of the much more traditional 466 cubic inch limit. And so for me, that was intriguing. It wasn't just, oh, here's another single charger class. It's look at the ground speed these guys are producing with 200 cubes less than what you guys are trying to compare them to. And I find that really entertaining as a fan. So once you see the inner workings and you see some of the rules and the concepts behind where these classes developed, they're not just another single charger class. It's something to sink your teeth into and enjoy. And it's pulls like the Keystone Winter Nationals that highlight just how much fun all of these tractors can be to watch.
A super farm tractor really shines. First of all, we're talking about an engine that makes 3,500 pounds of torque. So anyone that's into engines, 3,500 pounds of torque, that's crazy. That's through the roof. And at Keystone, and on these short tracks, these tractors, you can just hear that motor grunting, and you just got to wonder, how's that thing staying together? Because you know that the parts in there are not that big, because you need all that. You don't have a lot of room to swing those.
You want your free weight. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I challenge anyone that says there's too many classes, we need less one turbo. I challenge you to learn what the class actually is. And you brought up a good point about speed down the track. So you could have a 466 tractor to go down the track at 28 miles per hour, and that super farm will go down the track at 28 miles per hour. Also, take them indoors, load the boat up, then see what you got. That super farm tractor is going to haul the mail, and that 466 is going to be back there wishing he had 2 slower gears. That's the difference between the Poland tractors.
And that's why super farms, everything we're talking about is why super farms will always be, I've always said, the best show you can ever. Wednesday night at Louisville is the best lineup in pulling there is. If you could put mods, 4-wheel drive trucks, and super farms all on the same night, which is what they do, I think that's just a fun show. Super farms to me are speed for the first 200 feet, and then, or maybe even speed for the first 250 feet. And then that final bit, it's torque. And you swear, and you said it perfect, Jason, that motor is just going to lay down and die. And the great super farm drivers will find another 10 feet every single time. They sound like tractors from a bygone era, and they just find that torque in the back half, and they keep it wallering and they keep it moving. And that's grassroots pulling. In the world where people want to talk about we don't like race sleds and we don't like speed, watch what a super farm is doing in the final 15 feet of its pull. You're going to find out who's got what in the seat of their pants when they're doing that.
Yep. Impressive.
So then on Friday night, so you go out with super farms. I've made it clear that I think that class is awesome. You go into your finals. So you are going to run the finals of your minis on Friday night. So you've got your big block minis. They're running their top 5 Friday night. Then you go over to the light pro stock class. We mentioned the light pros earlier in the show. I kind of had a bad analysis on them, but you guys do have the true 540 cubic inch, 8,500 pound light pro. Now let's go back to that component versus ag rear end on that. That's been a debate in this class all over the nation. People are kind of getting on different sides of the fence. What kind of rear ends are we going to see out there?
I'm going to say, but Keystone, you're going to see all ag, just because there's probably guys building components, but we probably won't see any here this year.
And I could be a little misquoting on that. That's one of those classes that it either has gone component in some, and fans, if you are out there watching and you can help me out, and you know for a fact, I pull my outlaw rule book over here behind me and look, but I don't feel like it. I can't remember if that's a class that has gone component with some organizations, or the rumor is they're getting ready to go component. I know that we're in that ballpark somewhere.
PPL is allowing components on the Silver Series, but PPL local, which is like East Coast pullers, is not allowing it. So those guys have a lot to work out within their own group. NTPA is not allowing it. I think the problem is, and to speak on Pro Stocks, Pro Stocks was probably one of the first classes. All these classes have been brought to attention and are pulling Super Farm Light Pros because the Pro Stock just got too far out of hand for a lot of pullers. The Light Pro, same thing's happening already. They're going to get to the point where they're going to be component, which they probably should be for the amount of horsepower they're making. And the ag chassis are going to be, once again, finding a Pro Farm, a Mod Turbo, or a Hot Farm class. That's pulling. That's how it works. Awesome
I felt years ago that it was about 5, 6, 7 years ago when the Light Pro class kind of came up. That seemed like the ultimate place where the old 7,500-pound super stocks would kind of land. The ones that had the 540 cubic inch motor, which I think was pretty standard for the super stocks back then, that still had the ag rear ends, that never did go component. I felt like we would see a lot of those guys converting to the Light Pro, and I think that that's kind of where they've landed. It's interesting. They go to component because it's safer and more reliable, but then there's a boosted performance. And like you said, that's the progression of pulling. And then we're, starting on another one of these single charger classes. So after that, you guys have got mod trucks are going to go again. And then the dual to fuel. Anybody who doesn't know what that is, we know what that is. 8,000-pound super stock dual of the fuel right there. Any names out there we might recognize for us Midwesterners? They're going to be pulling in the 8,000-pound supers.
You had Bradish with the International from Western PA. Has been a international super stock puller for as long as I've been pulling, and he's one tough cookie. His tractor is called M80.
I saw that one at Fort Recovery 2 years ago. It is drop dead gorgeous. It is a beautiful, beautiful red tractor.
Yep. Oldens will be there with their John Deere that has pulled some of the Grand National, I think 2 years ago. Of course, Henry Everman has been a supporter from Keystone from the beginning. He'll be there. My nephew is hoping to have Airborne there for his of course, it's a heavier class. They normally run light super with that. Same way with Henry, but they'll be running at 8,000. Tom Ermson will be there, and a lot of the pullers know who Tom Ermson is. Tom can be credited for speeding most everyone's transmissions up in the late 90s, early 2000s for their pulling tractors. Super smart guy. He's pulling his alcohol tractor there. There's just a whole bunch. There's some New York guys coming that are great pullers and have been supporting the New York series for many years. It basically is at first, we put the alcohol with the diesels. Not everyone was real excited, but they've come to learn that there's not enough alcohol tractors to have a class, and there's not enough diesels to have a class. So in order to have a class, we had to put them together. So I think everyone is okay with it now, puller wise. The fans love it. The fans love it.
I wrote an article on this one about 2 weeks ago. There's a million different ways to analyze just what you said. Yeah, the numbers seem to be, it seems like they ebb and flow each year too. I can remember just a few years ago, it looked like the Alki Supers, they were holding on. They were on life support, and the diesel guys were having big numbers. And then this last summer, it almost felt like the diesel guys were down a little bit. The logical thing seems to be combine them. You know, if we've got 6 on one hand and half a dozen on the other, let's have a dozen in the basket. You know, the fans eat it up. The fans go crazy for it. The more I did my research, I saw the drivers are still fairly divided, that they definitely have big feelings and strong opinions when it comes to that. I'm going to let people make their own opinions on where they think the 8,000-pound Superstock class, alcohol and diesel, is going in the future, but it's certainly going to be interesting. We want Superstock pulling no matter what, so we'll put it that way. Mysick Pullen says it's going to be a tough class. Making top 4 for the finals is going to be quite an achievement. Are they running finals in that class for the Duel the Fuels as well?
Yeah, so one thing I didn't touch on, the rest of the classes will all have a finals that pull on Saturday night, and depending on how many tractors are in your class, you could have 3 go in the finals, 4, or if you have 2 flights, there could be a total of 8 there. But yes, that fellow was right. It will be a tough class to make the finals, and to be honest with you, that's what indoor pulling is all about, is making it to the finals. It's what everyone always talks about. Like, if you go and you interview anyone at the pool and you say to them, hey, how do you think you're going to do tonight? What's your goal? And I guarantee everyone will be like, I'm just going to be happy if I make the finals.
Yep.
Which brings up another bad point about pulling. Because you have a finals, people don't want to do pull-offs in an indoor pool. I don't know if you ever noticed that. Now, at Louisville, they make you. You have no choice. But here at Keystone, we've tried that in the past, and we get a lot of pushback just because the guys don't want to hurt their stuff, because the goal is to win Saturday night. So indoor pulling is a little bit different than outdoor pulling in that aspect.
Sometimes, yeah, it was an option, and I think on what night? I guess it might have been Friday night. I think it was Friday night, the Duel of the Fuels, and they had a couple. You know, once you get so many in the sand pile, you have to set a full pull distance, and you're just kind of required there. But they had 3 out the gate, and you know they were guaranteed to go to the finals. And I think, and Kinsey, you were right down there, you know, on the floor. Did they give them the option and say, do you want to pull it off, or do you just want to go straight to the finals? Do you remember how that narrative played out?
I don't think they just went to the pull off. I didn't hear any discussion on it.
No choice. But you guys are saying if you've got 4 that have qualified, it doesn't really matter your finishing order on Friday night. We're all looking for gold Saturday. Let's go ahead and take you and just hook you in the finals on Saturday. Is that kind of what you're saying, Jason?
That's what it ends up to be. That's not what we would like.
Oh, okay.
I think you're shortchanging the crowd.
So, man, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I love this. The other question I talked to people about today was pull-offs. I said, if you could change something in pulling right now, and I mean everybody. I had 130 comments on Beer Money Pulling Team Facebook page, and they said, we want pull-offs. And they were saying, why aren't there pull-offs? I don't think drivers like them. And I'm just kind of responding the information that I've been given. Drivers, I think we need to remember there is and what the drivers feel the equipment is able to display, you know, so drivers are not always huge fans of pull-offs.
I mean, yes, maybe their drivers, definitely not all drivers. Some drivers are very much into it. Here's the problem. Most tractor pullers have spent more money than they should on their tractor, and they know that. So they're happy if their tractor runs and goes back on the trailer, ready for the next pull. The guys that used to pull back in the day that paved the way for pulling today could care less. They would pull 3 times. And if they blew up, so what? They were going home to fix them because the cost wasn't nearly as bad as it is today.
Sure.
I was at an outdoor pull this year, and I waited there to the end to watch a light pro class. And I was so disappointed. There was 3 in the pull off. The first two guys went out there and give it everything they got. The third guy come out and bumped the sled and basically laughed about it because he didn't want to compete. You know what I mean? Like, why have a pulling tractor if you're going to compete for third, or you're going to compete just to make it to the next round? Let's see what you got. Let's lay her all on the table. And if you go out in the pull off and she don't make it, hey, come back again and try it again. I'm a fan for pull-offs. I like pull-offs. In fact, I like being first puller. If I'm first puller, 99% of the time I'm coming back unless I have a perfect run, because I like to pull the tractor. That's why I build it. That's why I work on it. It's fun to ride the pulling tractor, and unfortunately, it's only 10 or 12 seconds.
I've always wondered that as a fan. You know, it's you'll drive 8, 9, 10 hours. It always kind of bums me out. You guys only get, like you said, about 8 seconds of seat time, and then that was a long drive to only sit in that to be in the throttle, you know, for 9 to 12 seconds. So yeah, it's fans, folks, people watching, make your own opinions on it. I think there's a lot to be said every which direction. It's certainly entertaining. And anytime we're talking about pulling, that's good. You know, that's how you grow the sport. You know, if you love pull-offs, love them. If you think they need to disappear, then, you know, feel that way too, because talking about it and having an opinion on it is better than saying, well, you know, tractors and weights. So I tell you who did like pull-offs, and this guy's kind of vocal for it and well-known, Bill Voorhees out there in the American Thunder. He says, I love pull-offs. And I know if Larry Richwine was on the show with us, he could attest to that. Oh, Bill, he says, you got to win twice to win once anyway. So, you know, let's just make sure that you're tuned up good enough to run it twice. So rounding things out on Friday night, 8500 mod turbo, first flight. I think you've touched on that a little bit before, but tell us about that again if you feel so inclined.
Yeah, that class is basically the start of the light pro class. It's a 540 single turbo, no intercooler with an A pump, 8,500 pounds. It is the same tractor aside from the P pump and, you know, the engines that, you know, billet cranks, billet rods. A mod turbo makes somewhere around 2,000 horsepower, and a light pro, I'm hearing numbers of 3,000 plus.
Sure.
To give you the difference. So ag chassis, double cut tires, been pulling this way since the 80s. The class has been around a long time. It is the staple of the Keystone. You can see we have 2 flights of them. Very popular class for the area. We got a lot of new pullers coming into it this year. It's been very popular. It'll be a good show and good color. You know, we have, I don't think we have a case signed up. We do have a case. I'm not sure if he pulls Friday or Saturday, but we have case you don't see a lot of. You have Fords, New Hollands, you don't see a lot of in that class. Of course, John Deere's Internationals, and the occasional Al's Chalmers. So we got them pretty well all covered.
Back the blue. Hey guys, if you haven't read This Week in Pulling, go out to beermoneypullingteam.com. There's an article out there that talks about not sleeping on those Fords. Do the Fords do pretty good? Do the Fords New Hollands do all right in that 8,500 mod turbo class?
Yes. It's the class I pull in. My tractor is Pop Smurf, and I run. I'd won the points last year. First time in a good many years. The class is very tough, very competitive. Yeah, there's been some, I'd say Internationals is probably some of the toughest tractors out there in this class, just because there's so many of them. There's a few good running John Deere's. Actually, blue tractors, there's probably 6 or 8 blue tractors that run in the class pretty consistently. So it's a lot of fun watching them. It's definitely a lot of fun pulling them.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to get all the best binders and John Deere's and the sand pal so we can do a pull off is what my goal is this weekend.
Man, I love it. Yeah. So sounds like, and yours, you say yours is a Ford as well. You're pulling a Ford in this one.
Ford 9000.
Man, this is perfect. I wrote this article last night, edited and posted today. It's literally called Back the Blue. Ford is the most overlooked brand in pulling. You know, you have your big 3 and then you have kind of all the others. Is it just me, or does it feel like Ford has been on fire over the past 2 years? I mean, they had a big show at the farm show. You're sitting here telling me right now, points championship for you guys. The Ford tractors are putting the power to the ground. I used to think light Superstock, you know, that's where they live. That's where they live on that steady diet of alcohol, and that's where they're awesome. But you guys are making the black smoke come out of these blue motors pretty good now too. These Fords are tough.
Yeah, they've been tough. It's a Ford tractor is a very heavy duty tractor to begin with, especially like in the transmission rear end area. A Ford tractor would have no reason to go component, because the rear end is definitely tougher than the other models out there. That's one big advantage we have, and we have a great engine also. The problem where we run a little bit short is we can't get the cubic inch. 540 is about where we're going to land to make the horsepower. We've had tractors that spend 640, and there's some out there run pretty good. It's tough. There's just not hardly enough material there to make it work. Yes, the blue tractors are tough. The guys that run them are very serious about pulling, and the light pro class, they're going to tangle with a lot of blue tractors. A couple new ones coming out this year. They're going to keep coming because they're doing well.
Out of the factory, are they kind of like Alice? Do they typically run out of the factory a smaller cube motor than maybe the greens and the reds do?
No, like for the engine that everyone uses is 456 cubic inch.
Okay.
And
yeah.
So back to tractor pulling in general. What killed tractor pulling is the big block John Deere. So there's a lot of big block John Deere fans out there, which is great. And it's a great engine. Everything about it's good. The problem is it's like the next version over everything else. It's like a C15 cat versus a C10 cat. Those are the difference in sizes of the engine. And you just, in the pro stock class, you just can't run with them. And that's why all these cubic inches are so big, because that engine was 619 cubic inch. So the old story went, at least around here, it took 600 cubic inches of a John Deere to beat 456 of a Ford. And that held true for many, many years, in these hot farm classes and whatever. Those guys just seemed like they had to have more cubic inch to get the job done, even over the internationals. That's what these big cubes kind of made it rough for some of these colors to pull in these other classes.
Well, when you're going to build a pulling specific vehicle and you can get that as your base block, I think a lot of people said, why would you start with anything different? So, your point is spot on. You just kind of go right there. Chris Baker says the only 640 or bigger Ford New Holland is Spanky's Toy Super Farm from the Outlaws. There's a couple of them out there. Yeah. Mark Roberts pulls with us in the Outlaws with the Spanky's Toy, which is going to come in at 640. Don't forget about Greg. Is it Greg Elsing right there out of your home state, Kenzie? In the what I have nicknamed the T8 Bombcat. It used to be the T8 Tomcat until it went kaboom. So it's obviously going to have. I speak for what's under the hood. If you paint it blue until told otherwise, I'm going to assume it's blue. If you paint it orange, I'm going to assume that it's Alice and whatever. So I don't know, but I'm going to assume that he does have a 10,000 pound New Holland Maserati blue pro stock. So he would be another one I could think of. Going about as far away from pro stocks, anything in the pro stock family I can think of is going to be the 4,500 pound small block 4x4 trucks, which are going to pull on Saturday afternoon as well. Kenzie, if you went out to North Carolina, you've seen those, haven't you?
I have never been to North Carolina.
Jason saw these. I think it was at the North Carolina State Fair last year. Tell us about the small block 4x4s, Jason.
Yep, that's a 410 cubic inch class, and those guys are twisting those things past 9,000, trying to get to 1,000 horsepower. And I'm telling you what, you want to talk about close competition? It's like a super farm version of a truck class. It's crazy. You could lay a blanket over all 10 of those trucks; it'll be there. It is absolutely crazy.
These are not anything like what I would call the pro stock trucks or pro street truck we have here in the Midwest. We're still running bar cut tires. We're running methanol, I assume, and Hemis and wedge motors, or are they running wedge motors and burning gasoline?
Wedge, alcohol and gas. They have V cut tires. They're a mini version of a 6200 truck. That is it. They look just like it. They have the quick transfer gears just like it. I mean, they are a 4,500 pound version of a 6,200 pound truck with 410 cubic inch small block.
Outside of a mini rod, like anything that's pulling a full size sled that's still at competitive professional level pulling, that's got to be about the lightest class out there. That's got to be 4,500. You're right down at the bottom of what you're going to weigh and still pull a full size sled.
They do pull the full size sled outdoors, but the cool thing indoors, Richard Love, we pull his mini sled with 4,500 pounds, and they put on one heck of a show. It's fun to watch. they fly. They absolutely fly with that thing.
That's one that I want to see. I think I'm right. That's the one from the North Carolina State Fair where they had the it was like a Jeep truck, almost like the Jeepers Creepers 2-wheel drive. It's basically like a convertible truck pulling in like the small block light 4-wheel drive class. Then we've got some 85 mod turbo and 7,800 pound modifieds. They're running their second flights on Saturday afternoon. Diesel trucks are going to come pull with you guys. That's a huge one. You get west of the river. You get west of the big Mississippi River out here, 8,000 pound limited pro 3.0 diesel trucks. That is a popular class out here. Big following for that out east.
So this year will be the first year we've had the 3.0 trucks. In the past, we've had an open class, which allows anything. The problem is those diesel trucks with the bar tires and 3 turbos make so much power that even on a good track, they don't open them up till 250 feet, it seems like. And the Keystone, I don't even know if they can get them opened up. They just blow the tires off of them so quick. So we decided to use the 3.0 class because they run the DOT tire. And for some reason, that tire works a lot better on this dirt. And a lot of them guys have duals on. They're going to put on a really awesome show. And I know the guys that are pulling in the class are really excited to come pull there.
Yeah, I've got a buddy from right up here in Northeast Missouri who runs that very popular class out here. One of the few classes in pulling, if not the only class in pulling, where you're going to put 6 tires touching the ground because they can run those duals on the back, and it is DOT tires. I like that class. That's a door slammer class. That's a cool class. That's a popular one out here. I hope that goes well for your event. And man, you're right. I've seen that with the 3.6 diesel trucks or even the Superstock diesel trucks. You cannot get in the throttle early with those things. And if you try to, you're either going to light the tires on fire or you're going to bounce to kingdom come. So for indoor pulling, this might be a really good fit for you guys. Then you're going to round out the Saturday afternoon show with 7,700 pound light limited turbo. You spoke on that earlier. And then we go to Saturday night, 5:30, Saturday, March 16th, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 5:30. Driver intros are at 5:30, 6 p.m. We're going to hook the chain and we're going to have the green flags going. And then it's everybody's, except for your 2 mini classes, everybody's finals. That is at that point, you're running what you brung and hope you brung enough in your respective classes. And the chips are on the table and you're putting it in the pile.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, going to that Saturday night. And boy, the puller excuses start flying Saturday night. Like, it's unbelievable. You tell someone, hey, they did good, you had a nice hook, and it's so funny. We're all the same. We all strive to be the best. And, in our brains, if we'd had one weight forward, we would have got 10 feet. Or if we'd have kicked her up one gear, we'd have got that extra foot. We play this through, and you talk about going to a pool 8 hours and to pull it for 10 seconds. What's the point? Well, the point is a tractor puller will think about it for those 10 hours going to the pool, how he's going to do it. He's going to be mad at himself on the way home, the 10 hours, and what he's going to change on the tractor next weekend. He'll spend all week thinking about this pulling tractor and what he's going to do. So that's the beauty of Saturday night. That really puts things into perspective when you're laying it all on the line, and you better bring your A game because everyone is shooting for that sand pile.
And I imagine too, your crowd on Saturday night is going to reflect this same spirit and this same attitude. Does Friday night have a special atmosphere, both from the stands as it does on the track? Is this place rocking on Saturday nights?
100%. They do a great job of doing the intros for the drivers, making them, bring them out on the track and put a face to the name. And, of course they go over the brand thing. That's always a big deal. But I'm telling you what, the first tractor truck that goes into, we call it the cheese pile because our sponsor, his business is Grantville Truck and Trailer. He's one of our big sponsors. And the tractor he pulls is called Mighty Mouse. So it's the Mighty Mouse track. And we call it the cheese pile at the end. And we had a lot of fun last year. We had like this Wisconsin cheese head like you guys wear out there. Big old cheese head like football games. And we would stuff that on these guys' head when they hit the cheese pile. So the first guy that hits the cheese pile is definitely the crowd goes nuts. It's
sure.
awesome to see.
Yep. And that's one of those as a promoter too on going into the piles. Another one of those one of those controversial things out there. Controversial, if I could speak. But as a promoter, you almost sit back and you're like, hey man, if that's how we come out the gate, we've got the crowd hooked. That's how you build it. That's how you kick the tires and light the fires on Saturday night. The cheese pile. I love that. I do want to go on record and say that even though I'm a member of the Beer Money pulling team, cheese curds are gross. Now, I say this any chance that I get. I am not. Jason's going to fire me. Kenzie's going to boot me out of the studio right now. No. I'm like Beer Money. I'm from Beer Money South. I'm not up there in Wisconsin with you guys. So the cheese pile out there in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, I'll let the drivers get to work out there. Jason, I'm supposed to kind of keep my guests on here at 15 to 20 minute segments. I've kept you on here for an hour and a half. You have been far and away one of the most well-spoken, most educated guests that we've had, because you've been able to walk us through everything about each of these classes. I've really enjoyed that. I know we've got a ton of people still watching, so I think they've enjoyed that. Thank you very much for doing this with us. I'm going to give you the floor now. Keep it as long as you want. Be here all night for all I care. I love pulling. Tell us anything that we need to know about Keystone Nationals this upcoming weekend, in anything that we didn't touch on, sponsors or people you want to thank or more ticketing information. Take it away and tell the folks out there anything that they need to know about your upcoming event.
So, all the indoor pools that I've been to and most everyone goes to are all very unique in their own way. What we have at Keystone that's very unique, more so than any place that you go pulling, is everything is indoors. So every tractor that's going to pull is indoors. When you go to the track, you stay indoors. You never have to go outside at Keystone. You park, you're parking on pavement, plenty of parking. The facility is huge. That's one thing about Keystone, that you talk about live stream and someone says, hey, I just don't want to make the trip. I'm going to watch it on live stream. To me, you're missing out big time, because here's a chance to come to the pits and look at all this awesome equipment. There is so many unique things on a pulling tractor that even if you're a builder like myself, I'll look at someone's work and I'll be like, wow, that dude's smart. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of stuff that you want to look at and be like, hey, you think about guys that go pulling or try to put a tractor together or something. You don't think about little things like making a throttle rod or putting throttle cable on to make your throttle work. Like if you ever asked a puller that came on that actually does their own work for their tractor, and you asked him, hey, when you built your throttle, how long did it take? Someone would say, after looking at it, you look at my throttle, you'd be like, God, dude, you kicked that out in 10 minutes. No, it probably took, 5 hours to figure out how to make it work. What can you put on there that's going to stay working? And that's the kind of stuff you see in the pits at Keystone. And the pullers are super nice. If you go up and talk to them, they'll talk your ear off about tractor pulling. They're into it. Yep. And that's anywhere you go tractor pulling, in my experience.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
But it doesn't matter if it is storming out, raining, snowing. It doesn't matter. It's going to be nice and warm. The Harrisburg Farm Show Complex, by far, in my opinion, is the elite facility for an indoor pool, just because of staying indoors the whole entire time. And the nice thing for a puller is when you're done pulling, you can go right back to the pits and sit. We don't kick you out. You can stay there for the rest of the weekend if you want to, because we have a best of show and that kind of thing. So once you're there, you can stay in there till Saturday night, whether you pull Saturday night or not. And that's a big deal for the pullers, because, hey, you did all that work. Your tractor didn't perform quite like you wanted it, but you can still hang out with your tractor and talk to game. So that's a pretty cool thing. Sponsor wise, we have a lot of great sponsors. New Holland is our big sponsor for the equipment. Of course, Forster Farm Equipment also, and Grantville Truck and Trailer are title sponsors. We have a pedal tractor pool for the kids, and this is a premier event. I wish we could live stream it. It's that good.
You're talking your pedal pool?
Yeah, the pedal pool.
This is the Bowling Green of pedal tractor pools.
Listen, I'm telling you what, Darvin, the guy that does the pedal pull for us, there will be a sand pile for the pedal pull.
That's awesome.
The track is worked just like the regular track. It's marked off just like the regular track. Every kid gets a chance to go that wants to do it, and at the end, they're either going to get white milk or chocolate milk. And you wouldn't believe the size of crowd that's there for that pedal tractor pull. It's awesome.
You wouldn't. So I said earlier, if I could just go jump in a John Deere B or a WD-45 or something, it would matter just as much to me as if I was Joe Ader out there with 12,000 horsepower. You know, every single one of those kiddos who's down there on the track when they're watching the track be prep with a sand pile at the end feels exactly like you professional pullers do. That's one of the neatest things I've heard. And you know, for those little boys and girls out there, they're going to be out there reading the track and poking it with their pens and pencils, and they're going to be pullers for a day. That's really neat.
Yeah, and it's grown big time. Which you said you had Jess on the show, and she's taking care of the marketing, and she had a lot to do with getting some good sponsors for the pedal pull and turning it into something bigger. Jimmy Moritz helps me down there on the track. He's a 4-wheel drive puller here from PA, and I think he enjoys going out there and putting the dirt out there and helping build the track for the pedal pull. The pedal pull last year went for 3 to 4 hours. Can you imagine that?
That's excellent. That's excellent. I love it. This is a great event. You guys have done your homework. You've got the passion. You've got the equipment. Guys, and I'll go ahead and tell the people out there, and I know you talk a lot about, live streaming versus being there in person. And being there in person, I've been to many a pull where I've spent just as much time, if not more, in the pits, meeting drivers, looking at equipment, scratching my head and trying to figure out how all of that works, because I can just barely understand mechanics as it begins with anyway. If you're within driving distance, and driving distance to me is 4 to 5 hours, if you can make it to this pull, go to this pull. This is something that I wish I could be at. This is absolutely awesome. If you can't, live stream it, because that still all goes back to the right cause and what we're trying to do to support and grow pulling here with all of our promoters and pullers at every level. But dude, I'm telling you, if I was within 4 hours, I'd be getting there.
Here's what I want to tell you. We have a Harrisburg International Airport right beside the place.
Hey, there we go.
I'll come pick you up. All you got to do is text me. Anyone that wants to come, we will get you there to the pool. So it's not about driving. Just jump on the plane and let's go.
It's the world. The world is a smaller place, guys. Pulling is accessible. You heard it here first. Jason Forrester will pick you up. He'll pick you up and take you to the pool. He'll make sure you're there. You
said you had a 3 and a 5-year-old. That's prime time pedal pulling.
I am in the hottest of deep end of hot water with my boss right now. I've had to have some special meetings with the higher ups for the amount of time I've been requesting off for truck and tractor pulling. They said I get one more day, and I'm using that for something called the Pullers Championship. Kinsey, have you heard of that pull?
It sounds very familiar. I think
I see some stuff in our background here that's got that. Dude, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, Jason. I would be there absolutely if I could.
Hey,
and I know that makes me a hypocrite, but guys, if you can be there, be there.
Send me your boss's number and I'll talk to him.
Let's just forward this to him. I'm just going to download this, and we're just going to cut out this final clip right here, and we'll just send this into the email tomorrow.
But one last thing. So, like I said, this pool is put on by a slew of volunteers. The committee members work real hard all year long, just like you said, planning. And it's an army of people who put this pool on. As every pool that you go outdoors, anywhere you go, there's so many people behind the scenes, so many people that you never get to talk to that help with these tractor pulls and just love it. And they just can't wait to be there. I asked my committee members, I'm like, hey, Beer Money wants to do an interview. Do you guys want to do it? And of course, everyone's like, nah, we're busy. And, we don't like talking and whatever. And I get volunteered to talk because, I like talking, I guess. But it's no different if I was doing it. And if you'd get one of these guys one-on-one or one of the girls, they would talk to you the same as I do. They have the same passion about the pool. All the helpers have the same passion. And I want to thank all of our volunteers that will be helping this weekend, because Without you, the pool simply would not exist. It's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people. There's such a love. Pulling has such a unique following and such an intimate relationship, or such a passionate belief. And those people out there would do this for free. And the people you're referencing, quite literally, you know, whatever little bit that they can be involved in, or as much as they can be involved in, people love being a part of it. And you can't do it without people who work around the clock and volunteers who care a lot about it. And Jason, you're right. I think at the heart of hearts, every pulling person's like, oh, I don't want to go on an interview and go online and on a podcast to talk. Pulling fans will talk pulling. Something tells me that if we could do this all night long. I feel like if we really wanted to, we could sit here till 3:00 in the morning and talk pulling. Once pulling fans start talking pulling, it takes a lot to get them to stop. So
yep, you're exactly right.
That's wonderful. Well, we wish you good luck as a puller, as a promoter, as someone who is proud of a really well put together, really well represented event. Kenzie, I want you to think back. When was the last time we threw that many spec questions to an interviewer, and not once did they have to grab the old rule book? And I mean, did you write the doggone rule book for this stuff out here? I mean, you just did top to bottom every single class. I enjoyed learning about it, but I'm impressed with your knowledge.
I'm a fan. I'm a tractor pull fan. From pedal pulling all the way up to unlimited mods. I love it all. It's so much fun to watch. And, you know, when you really get to know people and get around people, it's fun to watch them operate their equipment. Yes. And what their thought process is, and how guys challenge themselves. Even when they know it's not going to work, they still try it anyhow. That's what makes pulling so much fun to watch for me. I can sit there and watch all the classes. One thing I do not like watching is 20 or 15, about 10 of one particular vehicle. I'm done. I don't care if it's the class I pull in or if it's Superstocks, Pro Stocks. That's about my limit. I'm ready to watch something else. And that's just personal preference.
I could watch a lot of them, and I say this lightheartedly. Don't crucify me, guys. I just wish that the 10,000-pound Pro Stock guys would paint their tractors. I want to see some. It's getting to the point with the 10,000. I don't mind watching the same types of setups, but from so far away, those are almost hard to tell apart. You get those 8,000 series John Deeres up there, and they all love the clean look with the no graphics on them. I didn't used to be a fan of graphics on tractors, but I wish some of those big pro guys would put some graphics on the side of them, because they all look almost the exact same at this point. No, I know what you're saying. After about 10 or 15, let's roll to the next class and keep it moving. Jason, I can't thank you enough. You've been an absolute excellent interview. If you have any closing statements, I invite you to give those to the world now. And I thank you so much for coming on to Let's Grow Pulling tonight.
Well, one thing I want to say for personally and from the Keystone Nationals, we appreciate what you guys do. I know JR does, has a host a show in here. Anyone that's taking time to talk to pullers or event managers or whatever for pulls to help to grow the sport means a lot to all of us. There's a lot of guys right now that are going to be working beyond midnight, maybe all night long, to get ready for this pull at Keystone. You'll never know that they're tired because they'll be so that jacked up on adrenaline. You won't see it, but you don't realize how much goes into each individual puller trying to get there. You're trying to do an interview and jockey your kids. Imagine all these pullers trying to get their kids to bed, work on their equipment, get their kids up, take them to school, go to work, get home, work on their equipment, trying to figure out how to get off with the boss and say, hey, I'm leaving Thursday. What are you going to do? You can't leave. I mean, there's so many things that go into this that people don't even realize. It's a big feat to get to the track for a lot of pullers. And, I want to thank all the pullers that's coming to the event. I thank you guys for trying to, talk about pulling, and you do a great job with it. It's good. It's good for all of us, and it's fun. The bottom line is it's fun, and you just can't get a better deal than tractor pulling, in my opinion.
You said it. I think the best statement that we've had of the night was when you said, I'm a fan, and I think that applies to every single person. Us at Beer Money Pulling, why do we do this? Because we're fans. We love it. Why do the drivers go out there and do this? Because they started at a pedal pull when they were 5, and that's all they ever dreamed about doing ever since. Why were my boys beating down the door in here? Because they knew that we were talking tractor pulling in here, because we're all fans. That is hitting the nail on the head. That is spot on. That is perfect. Keystone Nationals, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, March 14th, 15th, and 16th, 5:30 on Thursday, noon, session 2 on Friday, 5:30, session 3 on Friday, 11 o'clock in the morning, Saturday, session 4, and then championship night, Saturday night, 5:30 driver intros, 6 o'clock. Fly to the airport. Jason will pick you up. Live stream. Be there. Go to the cheese pile. It's going to be awesome. Jason, thank you so much, man.
Yep. Thanks for having me, and see you at Keystone, right?
Don't be surprised if I sneak in there somewhere. Kinsey, are you going to Keystone?
Yep, I'm leaving tomorrow morning.
Awesome.
Are you flying? Jason will pick you up at the airport.
I wish. No, we're driving. We got to take the lovely merch trailer out there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All about it. Get yourself some beer money swag.
That's right.
Jason, I appreciate you, man. This was an awesome interview.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right,
thank you, sir.
Yeah, we'll see you.
Well, fans out there, I'll kind of do a quick beer money after dark. But boy, we about got it, Kinsey. We about hit the 2-hour mark, where it's kind of an unwritten rule that we shoot for 2 hours. I don't know if we'll get clear all the way to 2 hours. If you're still watching, you have questions, go ahead and put those questions out there. Things that you can use to discuss any of the articles. You can go out to beermoneypullingteam.com, click on blog. Any of the articles that have been posted up there is original content that I have that I produce. So a lot of things, we've talked dual the fuels on there. We've talked about favorite brands of tractors and kind of supporting some of those offshoot tractors out there. We've talked about indoor pulling, getting in and out of the throttle, hitting the sand pile. Some of the things that I was encountering today on the Facebook page, one of the questions I'd asked the world was, what's the best change that's happened in truck and tractor pulling in the past 30 years, and what would you bring back if you could? And the resounding answer was pull-offs. And that really kind of goes into that whole idea of also the combined classes. Make your opinions on it. You know, if you love pull-offs, absolutely live and die by them. If you're anti pull-offs, you know, tell us why, do your thing. So, a lot of good things happening in pulling out there. We talk track length sometimes. A lot of fans out there said 300 foot. I don't want to see him go past that. Some people say let him run. I'm a fan of the longer pulls. Kinsey, do you have a big fan? Are you married to the 300 foot mark? There's a lot of people out there that kind of is like 300 is a full. The back of my shirt, I was noticed, I put it on. It says it's only 300 feet. What could go wrong? And I wonder if Jason could reprint these. Would he change it to it's only 350 feet? Or if Matt Goodwin had one, he would say it's only 417 feet. What could go right? You know, because old Matt puts them way out there sometimes.
Yeah.
Are you married to the idea of 300 feet? In your opinion, is that what a pulling track should be?
I mean, no, not really. I mean, the point is to go as furthest as you can, or further than the last guy.
Yep. I like, further than the last guy. The goal is to go further than the last guy. Well, you know, give us plenty of distance to do it then. Pullers don't like to be brought to an abrupt stop. That's one that I've heard too. They like to get out and run, and then they like to be brought to a stop gradually. The first 70 feet is kind of given to a puller because they're built in such a way that they need momentum on the back half of the track. So if you give them the first 70 feet, you have to give them that 70 feet on the back half of the track, and then they don't want to be brought to a hard stop. They want to be brought to more of a gradual stop. How long of a drive is it for me to come to Keystone? Kenzie, how good are you? Can you put Google Maps on the screen? We can give a live answer to this. Yeah. Is that something you can do?
I can. Well, for me, it's about 15, 16 hours for me that I'll be driving. For you,
Macon, Missouri to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I bet you're 15 hours. You might be farther than me. I bet I'm inside 12.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because we got that lake to go around.
You guys are northern Midwest. You're like true Midwest up there with it. Yeah. Anytime you talk about Great Lakes, you're legitimate Midwest.
Yeah, right in there. I gotta find my mouse now. Hang on.
How far of a drive is it, Matt? I don't know. This has nothing to do with pulling. This is true beer money after dark at this point.
Missouri.
Bake and mow.
Harrisburg, PA. I don't know if you can see that, but it's 14 hours.
14. How far did you say it was for you?
About 15.
Oh, I am like so much closer.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
basically there. Yeah, I got an hour head start. Straight east. I don't have to do, look at that. I don't have to like left, right, turn. I bet it's all on I-70. No, that's going to be 36. 36. No, I-70 be south. I'm going to have to take 36 and then hit I-70 over there at Indianapolis.
Okay. Well,
See, you're basically there.
Basically.
You can just leave first thing Thursday morning.
No.
You're half an hour closer than I am. No, guys, if you have any strong feelings, big opinions, questions for the Beer Money Pulling Team, questions for me, if you're still out there watching, I know there's a handful of you out there. There's a couple of 50, 60 people out there watching. Bring up something about pulling. We'll talk about it. I swear those T-shirts were made for Matt Smith from Shipshawana a few years ago. I don't know Matt Smith, Kenzie.
Matt Smith, the Fast Forward Light Pro that went bang at Ship.
That went bang. See, so Shipshawana, I am a novice at Shipshawana. When I say I referred to myself as a pulling snob for a long time. Like I was Grand National level classes, kind of that's only where I stuck my interest for a long time. So when we do a lot of these things, I'm still of a developing knowledge at some of these with the single charger classes. Matt Smith went bang, huh?
Yeah, he got to the end and his motor ejected.
Oh, yes. I saw this video. Yeah, yes. The motor has left the chat. There was a rule, like there was brand new rules that came out like a day later about that. Kind of like when 2018, when Camille Shelton, she was pulling, she might've been out in North Carolina, and her drive line like literally came up and like bounced in between her legs. And then like the very next day, NTPA or PPL had a rule about Kevlar blanketing over all that. And I was like, oh, nope, can't have that happen. That's pulling. Rules get made out of necessity. And rules are a good thing, just like the safety procedures they had at Louisville with the T8 Bombcat that kept all the shrapnel and shards. I remember as a kid, Kenzie, did you go to pulling when you were a kid, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, when you were really young?
Oh, yeah.
And you go with your dad or your uncle or your mom or whatever, and a part of you is just so excited to be there because you're hanging out with them and these vehicles are so awesome. But was a part of you like almost terrified because of just the maximum amount of horsepower that's going down there? And like you think to yourself, if one of these things grenades, like, am I sitting far enough? Like, I know my dad says that this is safe, but like, how much am I actually trusting him right now? And you watch those booms. Were you always afraid that some of that was coming for you in the crowd?
No, not really.
Because no, we're from Wisconsin.
Yeah, we're kind of built different up here. No,
you guys you eat cheese curds up there, so if you can handle that, then yeah, I wouldn't be afraid.
Some days I can't. So. I've seen too many of them. I can't.
Oh man. But no, a lot of good content out there. Pullers Championship. Can't not talk about the Pullers Championship, May 17th and 18th in Nashville, Illinois. Go out to don't forget about, sometimes we can go up and down on all things that are happening. Go out to TPC, pullerschampionship.com, the TPC website. Refresh yourselves, guys, with everything that you can see out there. Hit that class list again, obviously, or I would assume that Full Pull is going to be running live games out there as well, so you can have a lot of times to muse over that. Speaking of Full Pull is going to be doing a $1,000 play money cash challenge again at the Mack Trailer Winter Nationals. I don't know if everything that has the word Nationals in it has the word winter in front of it, but until told otherwise, I'm just going to keep sticking the word winter. So if it has Nationals, the Bowling Green Winter National Tractor Pulling Championships, no, that's not how that goes. But no, the Mack Trailer Winter Nationals games are up. You can bet now. I've already got my bets in. I wrote them down. I locked them in. I did not win the last Louisville competition, but I feel good about winning this one. We will see when that happens. Kenzie, are your bets in?
Not yet.
Do you have in the back of your mind who you think is going to win in Louisville? Louisville second go around.
I like to think I do, but I'm usually wrong. So,
Were you close? Were you close the first time?
I didn't do the farm show one.
Didn't do the farm show. I was
No.
rock star position for the longest time. I was top 13, flirting with top 10. And then we went straight to 0 in a hurry. After we had no green pro stocks make the finals Friday night, that one sent me down in a hurry. I got skunked on Friday night. But yeah, that's what we have going on in the world of pulling out there. A lot of good content. Guys, always, if you have questions, if you have thoughts, if you have opinions, if you have big, bold, strong things that you want to say, put them in Beer Money Pulling Team group or go out and comment on any of our content that we have on the Beer Money Pulling Facebook page. Go to our content on YouTube. You can go back and watch any of the interviews that we do. You can go back and watch any of the Let's Grow Pulling podcasts. Matt Hart was not on tonight. I know that a lot of you listen to this because you get to listen to the Morgan Freeman of truck and tractor pulling. We're going to have Matt read a grocery list one night, and just the sound of his voice makes the viewers double when he is speaking. You had to listen to me tonight, so go out to YouTube and pull up a couple of the previous podcasts, and you can listen to the soothing, soulful sounds of Matt Hart speaking about whatever he feels like speaking about. Or maybe you miss Larry. Where is Larry? Larry's a great guy. How can we have a Monday night hangout without Larry? Go back on YouTube and watch one of ours. Leave us a comment. We'll get back to you and we'll reply. Maybe you miss Jason Schultz. Kenzie, does your boss, does he still live in Wisconsin? It's just he's got a lot of these business trips down to Mexico lately. I can't help but notice.
I know, especially where it's warm and we're freezing up here.
Do they have tractor pulling in Antigua down there?
Hey, they might now. He probably talked somebody into it.
How many? I bet they have a Beer Money Pulling Team sticker stuck to something in Antigua. What are the odds of that?
Very high.
maybe multiple of them. There are a whole row of lampposts, I'm gonna bet, in Antigua, Mexico. I think it's in Mexico. I don't know. I teach English, not geography. Mm-hmm. He's somewhere warm and ocean and sand. And there's Beer Money Pulling stickers down there now, so we can bet on that. But yeah, guys, what I'm trying to say is, ever since I was a huge pulling fan for forever. I ate it up. I would go out on YouTube. I would go to any pulls that I could. There is so much good content out there, and this is a team and a group. I've just started working with them, but Jason and Kenzie and Chandler and Matt and Larry and anyone who's even remotely involved with it, there is so much out there, and you can go back and find it. So go to YouTube, watch any of our stuff on BMPT on YouTube or Let's Grow Pulling on YouTube. And I mean it. Go out to the Facebook page and comment on something. I will reply. I'll get on there and I'll give you what I think about it. And I'll tell you if I think it's a great comment. I'm usually pretty nice. I don't think anyone has bad opinions on there. But tell us what you think about truck and tractor pulling. Tell us which pulls you're excited to attend. Tell us what you wish you could change in the sport. Tell us what you love about the sport. Tell us who your favorite Superstock puller from the 1990s was. That's always a good one. We'll get back to you. Kenzie, pulling is fun.
It's very fun.
Pulling is fun. We've gone for an hour 47. Mm-hmm. You know, you'd said earlier tonight, you're like, if I have an earlier night, that'd be pretty cool. Well, yeah, exactly. I bet, you know, it feels like we can make that happen.
Awesome. I would appreciate that. Okay.
Yeah, this is as close as I get to not. Oh, also wait, we have something cool to play, don't we? We have an outro.
Oh, the outro, yeah.
We have an outro. Hey, guys, hang on if you're still watching. This is made by Chandler. Chandler is the man when it comes to creating these kind of things. Guys, thank you so much for watching Let's Grow Pulling on this second Monday in March. We'll be back next Monday night. We're going to talk to some pullers from the Mack Trailer Winter Nationals. I got some messages from some people as we were on the show tonight that said they will be on. So we do have some really cool guests that are going to be pulling in Louisville next time. Yay. You ever want to talk pulling? You know where to find me. You know where to find us. Thank you guys so much for watching. Kenzie, let's see that outro video.
See you next week.
Let's make some noise. Good running. John Deere out of O'Keefe, Iowa coming up. We got one right behind you.
I should probably hit the end stream button. God dang it.